Before I took this class, I thought that education was just for teaching content. Now I know the importance of multicultural education. Multicultural education in the classroom should create equal opportunities for each student, a safe environment, and should make each student feel like they matter. The role of multiculturalism in society is to create people who model social justice. My beliefs regarding multicultural education will impact my future practice by acting as a guide for the decisions I make in the classroom. There were several key terms in this course that helped me realize that my idea of education was not the best one for my students. The first was marginalization. When a student is marginalized, he or she feels like they don't matter as much as the other students in the class, and this affects their academic performance as well as their feeling of self-worth. Another idea that struck me from this course is the idea of the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum are the unspoken set of rules that students are expected to follow in the classroom. I had never thought about how we send messages to students without even knowing. This is another way that students can feel like they don't matter as much, and we don't even know that we're sending these messages. As a teacher, I want to be aware of the messages I'm sending so that my students do not feel marginalized. Another term that struck me in Chapter 1 is ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is the inability to view other cultures as equally viable alternatives for organizing reality. As a teacher, I have to make sure that I see all cultures as valuable. I also have to be on the lookout for students who are ethnocentric themselves. I need to show these students that our differences are what make us special. The next chapter of the book deals with language. The most important things I got out of this chapter involved nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication are all the gestures and unspoken ways that we communicate with others. Nonverbal communication is important because sometimes we send a message we don't mean to send by letting a student see a certain facial expression. Sighing when a student gets a question wrong, or crinkling your nose when you get close to a student with smelly body odor sends the student a clear message and makes them feel like they don't matter as much. Another important part of this chapter is eye contact, a specific aspect of nonverbal communication. If you don't give students eye contact, you have less of a connection and convey that they aren't worth as much. Eye contact shows that you care. Another language term is Standard American English. This is the acceptable written language that is typically found in grammar books, although few individuals speak formal Standard English. Black English, also known as Ebonics, is one of the best known dialects in the United States. It's controversial because schools try to ban it because it's often spoken by African Americans and is not Standard American English. The idea is that people who speak Ebonics are less intelligent, but this is not true. We should honor students' home language while still teaching them Standard American English. Another thing I've learned about diversity is that students can be diverse in terms of where they come from. Students can come from rural, suburban, or urban areas. An urban area is a large city with a large population. The schools are very diverse in terms of ethnicity and race, and students can often be from low-income families, meaning the parents may not have as much time to support their kids due to working several jobs. Suburban areas is the area right outside of a city. The schools are known for being high quality, and there is low diversity as a lot of people who live in suburban areas are white. They're also upper middle class families, meaning the parents must have a lot of time to help out their students. In rural areas, there are fewer people. In addition, the rural workforce earns a lot less than the urban areas, meaning that people in the rural areas may not be as affluent. Rural areas are known for having small schools, with possibly not as much funding. In addition, some teachers may teach subjects they're not as prepared for. Culturally responsive teaching affirms the cultures of students, views the cultures and experiences of students as strengths, and reflects the students' cultures in the teaching process. I want to be a culturally responsive teacher because this is the best way to honor students' home cultures. By honoring a student's culture, you make them feel like they matter in the classroom. Social justice is a philosophy, an approach, and actions that embody treating all people with fairness, respect, dignity, and generosity. The most important part that I see here is that it's a philosophy, an approach, and actions. You have to not only believe it, but you have to walk the walk. I want to be a social justice teacher so that my students learn by me modeling what it means to believe in social justice and to act in a social justice manner. Teaching multiculturally can be a daunting task. Luckily, there are the CREED standards, the Center for Research on Education, Diversity, and Excellence. These standards outline how multicultural education teachers should outline their classroom. These are the 5 CREED standards. The first, joint productive activity, involves teachers and students collaborating to facilitate learning. The second, language development, is when literacy and language is developed across the curriculum because they are such important skills. The third, contextualization, involves connecting learning to students' lives to give it meaning. The fourth is challenging activities. The idea behind this is that all students can learn, no matter their race, socioeconomic status, or background. The fifth, instructional conversation, is the idea that by engaging students through dialogue and sharing and questioning, they learn better. The most valuable concept I've learned in this course is Schlossberg's theory of mattering versus marginality. Marginality is when a student feels a sense of not fitting in, and they feel like they don't matter. Mattering is when a student receives attention and they feel appreciated and important, and they feel like they belong in the classroom. This theory will guide my practice because I believe that if students don't feel like they matter, then they can't learn as effectively, and the students who are marginalized are at a disadvantage for learning. Teaching multiculturally is not going to be easy, and I can't let my biases get in the way. I have to not give females an advantage just because of their gender. I can't assume that minority students aren't as smart just because they're a minority. And I can't assume that students from a rural area are farmers. I must use critical thinking while I'm a teacher to acknowledge my biases and then to dismiss them. I'm excited to begin my career as a teacher who models social justice. My only concerns are of administrators and parents who aren't as supportive of the multicultural education approach. I'm confused about whether administrators support this idea in general. I'd like to find out more about that. Thanks for listening to what multicultural education means to me.